I'm joined by Council Member Richard Alicorn, and what I'd like to do at this time is go through items that we have on the consent calendar, and hopefully we can move these items quickly. Where's my attorney? There he is. We do not have a quorum as of yet, Mr. City Attorney, so the actions that we take will be deemed to communicate from the chair. With that said, if the CLA's office could begin by reading item number 2.
Item number 2, CRA report relative to execution of a conditional grant agreement with Breed Street Shoal Project Incorporated to provide $245,961 of Adelante East Side tax-exempt bond funds for installation of a bridge court at 247 North Breed Street in the Adelante East Side redevelopment project area.
Okay, then we'll adopt the the CRA report on that, Brian. Item 3.
Item number 3, CRA-CLA report relative to service repayment loan agreement not to exceed $500,000 with Los Angeles Housing Partnership Incorporated to pay for the rehabilitation of the formerly ground floor retail space at Parkview at the Park Senior Apartment Project.
Okay, we'll adopt the CLA report on that item. Item 4.
Item number 4, CRA and CLA report relative to amending an existing retail lease with Western Carlton 2 LP and executing a sublease agreement with Bicycle Kitchen to accommodate a proposed bicycle facility operation.
Okay, on that item, we'll adopt the CLA report. That brings us to item 5.
Item number 5, CRA report relative to renewal and award of annual contracts and purchase orders totaling approximately $7.7 million for various goods and services for fiscal year 2011-2012.
Okay, then on that item, we'll adopt the CRA report, and it's my understanding there's some amendments as amended.
Okay.
Next item.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Just for clarification, the amendment needs to be read into the record.
Would you read the amendment into the record?
Sure. That the City Council acknowledge and approve as appropriate CRA-LA's implementation of the renewal and award of annual contracts and annual purchase orders for fiscal year 2011-2012, CRA-LA funds to be utilized to the annual contracts and APOs as proposed allocations and not obligations, as the vendors listed in this report are utilized for projects identified in the cooperation agreement for payment of costs associated with certain CRA-funded capital improvements, public improvements, and affordable housing projects dated as of March 10, 2011, between the CRA and the City of Los Angeles. The costs of such services will be charged against the cooperation agreement's pledged funds of $930 million.
Okay, adopt the CRA report as amended. Item 7, I think I'll hold for a minute. Item 8.
Item number 8 is motion Han Labange relative to request to the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles to rename the Rancho San Pedro development so it is no longer associated with the San Pedro gang.
Okay, then we'll adopt that motion. That brings us to item 9.
Item number 9 is motion Perry Parks relative to funding for the Homelessness Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Program and funding instruction related to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority Home at Last program.
Okay, then we will adopt that motion as well. All of these items will be considered communications from the chair until we have a quorum. Mr. Alicorn, how did you want to wait till we have a quorum before we deal with item 7, or did you have some? No? Well, then let's dispense with item 7.
Well, wait,
You bet.
have issues with this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so then we'll just hold. We've just been joined by Ms. Perry, so we do have a quorum. And so, Ms. Perry, we've taken action on several items as a communique from the chairs. Item 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 9, and we continued item 6. If you have no problems with those items, then instead of a communique, it will be the desire of the committee to recommend those items. All right. Oh. Okay, what I'd like to do, Jim, I haven't seen you so long, I forgot. You wanted to come and speak on item 4, so if you could come forward. And Mr. City Attorney, can we just hear what he has to say about item 4, or do we have to? We've already acted on.
You could reconsider it based on if the need arises.
Okay. Good to see you, and I'm sorry. Good morning.
Morning, Jim McQuiston. Quick action at the Housing Committee. I submitted a statement for you. It's pretty clear. The problem is that item 4 gives away $68,400 in a special privilege. There are other facilities within about a quarter mile or a half a mile of this facility, similar commercial enterprise, so it would be unseemly actually for the neighborhood. There's no reason for the special benefit in the first place. Second of all, in the budget and finance hearings just yesterday, it was pointed out that if you have an account which is for facilities, you really can't use it for anything else, and this would be used, the money, for something else. It's not that you're negotiating a lease. The lease has already been negotiated. CRA is paying $2 a square foot for this on a 10-year lease, and to sublease it for something less means that the $2 per square foot that they leased it at must be also a little bit too high. So there is a reservation that I have about the sublease. They really should look for someone to lease out the property or sublease the property at the rate that the CRA is paying right now, or else explain why it takes a little bit more than just what the CRA has put in to explain why they're giving away $68,400.
Okay, thank you. In fact, before it goes to council, I'll try to get an answer.
Mr. Chair, just as an abundance of caution in light of the comments, I think to be consistent with the Brown Act, it would be appropriate to have the committee re-vote on the matter.
Okay, so let us do that. Let us reconsider item 4.
You need a motion?
No. On item 4, I move that we adopt the CLA report. So without objection. Okay, with that said, why don't we deal with item 7 now? So, Brian, if you could read item 7.
Item number 7, LAHD report and resolution and CAO report relative to authority to issue up to $18 million in tax-exempt multifamily mortgage revenue notes for the Delray Senior Housing Project.
Okay. Do we have... Do you want to bring anybody else to the table? Good morning.
Morning.
Whoever.
Good morning, Melissa Fleming with the CAO. Yaneli Ruiz from LAHD.
Tim Elliott from LAHD.
And as stated, the item before you is a request from the Housing Department to issue tax-exempt bonds in the amount of $18 million to support the Delray Square Senior Housing Project that's located in Council District 11. And the CAO has concurred with the department's request to execute or to issue the bonds.
This is a large senior project in CD11 on Culver Boulevard and near Mar Vista, which is a really unusual opportunity for us to get this kind of housing in this kind of neighborhood. And it's a partnership with the Housing Authority, who's actually providing capital funds and vouchers to this project to make it possible. So this is the issuance of the bonds, the soft money that's the home funds that have been committed to this project were committed previously. And the bonds will be issued in August. If we proceed today with the authorization to go to the debt limit allocation committee at the state in July. Developers, Tom Safran, Associates, somebody we've done business with a lot, and we think this is a really good opportunity for us to get this kind of housing, and it's a partnership that we just haven't had before. So it's a unique opportunity for us.
Anything else? And I'm just waiting. I need some guidance from the city attorney's office here. Ms. Perry, can I request a favor of you?
I don't know. Let's see.
No,
Think about that.
it's not a bad thing. I'm going to have to. Would feel more comfortable if I'm not involved where it relates to this vote. For personal reasons, I may have some form of a conflict. So I'm going to ask that you, and then I'll see you later.
See you later.
Trying to rent a unit?
Huh?
Trying to rent a unit?
Oh, no. Okay, great. Do you have any speaker cards on there?
No, Madam Chair, there are no speaker cards on this.
All right. Well, in that case,
I mean, that's like.
let's wait for him to leave the room. Hold on. Step it up now. Hi. He's not going to come back, is he? Oh, okay, great. Now we can say things about him. All right, great. All right, thank you. So if you want to proceed with your staff report, you have more to add?
No, we would recommend approval of the recommendations as included in the CAO report.
Okay. Well, we don't have a quorum now, so it can go forward as a recommendation if there's no objection. Mr. Alarcon?
Yeah, without quorum, my role is insignificant, but I did want to ask some questions about
Great.
the use of Citibank. In the report, it doesn't, I'm not exactly clear what the role of Citibank is. And I'm concerned, I know we're suing Citibank, and I'm wondering why we're doing business with a bank we're suing.
Well, this is conduit financing through an arm of Citibank.
You know what, I can barely hear you. Can you speak into the mic?
Sorry. This is conduit financing through an arm of Citigroup that's different than the arm of Citi that's being sued. Citi Community Capital is the community development bank within Citigroup, and this is we brought this issue before council previously, and it was determined by the city attorney's office that this was a different legal entity than what we're suing. Citigroup is a very big organization, and their community development bank is well positioned to do this kind of financing. They are a leader in this industry and had a unique financing technique that helped us get over the hurdle of the state budget crisis when the Prop 1C funds were frozen. They actually adopted a strategy that helped us move forward, and at a time when no other bank would do business with projects that had state financing involved. So Gail Takahashi from the city attorney's office is here. We've been through this on a number of issues. There is this lawsuit with Citibank, but this is a separate legal entity within Citigroup, which is a very large organization.
You say it's within Citigroup, but it's separate. I don't understand.
Well, Citigroup is a very big organization. City Community Capital, who's buying the notes from us, is a separate legal entity, and it's been determined that they're not part of the lawsuit.
I don't understand how it could be part of a group, but a separate legal entity. It doesn't make sense to me. Can the city attorney explain?
Okay.
Good morning, Councilman Gail Takahashi with the City Attorney's Office. The entity involved is a related city entity, but I'd just like to add that the
When you say
role...
city, you're talking about the bank.
Right, correct, Citibank. It's a separate entity, however, it is related to the institution that the city of Los Angeles is suing. However,
Does the Citigroup profit from actions of
no, not in this case. The role is different. Here, the Citibank is using its funds to support the project. Its funds are at risk, not the City of LA. The City of LA is not putting a dime into this project as far as the bonds are concerned. There is subordinate lending on the behalf of LHD, but that's a separate issue.
But does the Citigroup profit from Citibank's involvement in this project?
Only to the extent that the interest on the bonds is tax exempt.
So that's a yes?
So that's a yes in that respect. However, if there's a problem or default on the project, Citibank bears the risk. Their options are to foreclose or take any other remedies it has as a senior lender in the project. So it does bear real estate risk. And there is a possibility that it won't...
You're answering questions I'm not asking. The question, the concern I have is that we're enabling a company that we're suing to profit.
Well, the only thing I can just say is that there is, other than the fact that the interest is tax exempt, they're not... That's the only way they're profiting, and you balance that against the units that the city is getting on the west side.
Well, that's not a legal opinion. That's a policy decision. So what is the status of the lawsuit?
My understanding is the lawsuit's been removed to federal court. It's being handled by outside counsel. Another unit of our office is monitoring it, and my understanding is they did give a report in closed session some time ago. It is still pending.
So, but it involves millions of dollars
Correct.
that we're alleging they ripped us off?
There is an antitrust litigation pending.
Mm-hmm. It involves millions of dollars that we're alleging they ripped us off?
I don't know the details of the lawsuit. However, I know it's an antitrust lawsuit involving municipal derivatives.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Alarcon, I wanted to check to see if there was anybody in here from the district. Is there anybody here? You can have her calling downstairs to see if there's anybody in here from the council district. Because if you find it sufficiently controversial, I'd either hold it in here or continue it.
Well, what happens if we hold it?
We have to move forward within 30 days to go to the state, so we have...
No, they're actually in the process of closing already. And so...
Is the developer here today? The developer's not here either?
No.
Okay.
They are in the process of closing. We were waiting for council approval of the issuance of the bonds, and all the other lenders are also pending. HUD, HACLA, they're all in the process of approving the project.
I'll ask the question again.
The deadline...
What happens if we hold it?
The deadline is May 16th to close with CIDLAC. We have asked for an extension of 90 days, but we won't know until May 18th if we have that approval.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have a quorum, so I don't have a vote either way.
Yeah. You know what? We can just keep it here. When's your next meeting? 25th of May?
What's your deadline? The 15th?
The 16th. We've asked for an extension, but there's an outside possibility that we would have to go back and and get a new bond allocation, which would delay the project.
Let me ask you this, how does Citibank get involved? Do we reach out to them, or does the developer do that?
The developer chose them as the bond buyer. They're buying these bonds, actually, they're notes from the city, and it's conduit financing. It's essentially the same as a loan that they would make. And the difference between taxable and tax exempt rates right now are zero.
Okay, I just want to know, how did Citibank get involved in this deal?
The developer chooses the bank, and in this case, they chose Citibank because Citibank is using in their underwriting the Section 8 vouchers that the project is receiving. Therefore, they maximize their leveraging permanent loan.
But
Right.
they could go to other banks.
Well, actually, no. Citibank is the only one that we know of at this time that's willing to take the risk for the Section 8 contract, and they'll make a full 40-year loan based on a 15-year Section 8 contract. Other banks would say that there's risk that the Section 8 program won't get renewed because it's on an annual approval. And this is a different kind of underwriting that we would get from anybody else, and it makes, at least $1 million difference in the permanent loan. So this is a structure that they've come up with. It's unique and isn't being offered by any other lender at this time.
Well, okay, having heard that makes a big difference. But and let me say for the record, I don't have a problem with the project per se. In fact, I've worked with this developer, and he produces some of the best quality affordable housing, I think, in the city of Los Angeles. So that wasn't the issue at all. But I do have concern about us continuing to do business with banks that we're suing and that are ripping us off. Even though it's a different arm, different branch, we've got to send a message. We should not be investing in banks that are ripping the public off. And,
Why don't we, since
but
we...
I don't have a problem,
Yeah,
given that
okay.
this is a unique, let's put it this way. An institution this large is not all bad. So we want to be clear that we're dealing with the good parts, and in this case, if it's the only way to make this thing happen, it's the only way to make it happen, and this would be good for the city.
Well, since we
I
don't
did
have
wanna
a
make
quorum,
it-
we don't have a quorum anyway.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is it'll be moved as a recommendation, and then it'll be on the,
Well, it would,
shoulders.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't be a recommendation, just be a communication from the
Communication,
committee
I'm
without
sorry.
recommendation.
Communication without recommendation
With-
from the
like-
committee, from the two members of the committee who were present. Then that will give the council district time to be alerted, and also the developer to be there to answer questions regarding the issue that Mr. Alarcon raised today.
I mean, unless Mr. Alarcon is, it's not clear, would you have voted yes or no on it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it now.
You're
I'm
fine with,
fine
oh,
with
then
that.
it could be as a
Given the-
communication from
Yeah,
the chair,
given the
if that's the
emphasis
case.
that this is the only bank that is offering this kind of opportunity, and the benefit outweighs the concerns I have.
Then it could be a
I
communication
have
that
no
the two
problem
voted yes.
moving forward.
Mhm.
I just wanted to keep them on their toes.
What's the difference between a communication without recommendation and a communication?
It would show that the two of you were in favor of it. It still would require full action by the full council. We hear over again as though.
Well, I would like to hear what the council district has to say about the issues that have been raised, but I'm willing to move it.
Yeah.
So why don't we just move it as a communication without recommendation? Is that all right with you, Mr. Alarcon?
That's fine.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. What's the next item?
That would be, there is the commissioner, or item number 10, which is the Neighborhood Stabilization Program.
Okay, Mr. Wesson is back, so we have item number 10, Mr. Wesson, on the desk, and item number 1 for the commission appointment.
Okay,
Whatever
why
you-
don't we do the commission appointment?
Okay,
So if we could, first of all, let me say, that's weird. Just wandering aimlessly in
well,
the hallway, waiting for you guys to wrap things up. So let's do the commission appointment, item 1. Brian?
Okay. Item number 1 is communication from the mayor and the City Ethics Commission relative to the appointment of Ms. Elise Buick to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority for the term ending June 30th, 2013.
Please come forward.
I had a couple of questions.
Now I'm going to kick it over to you. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to ask you to, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you, would want to serve on this commission, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Perry for a few questions. So please.
Great. Well, good
welcome.
morning. Thank you. I'm incredibly honored to be considered for this appointment. As many of you know, the United Way released a plan focused on poverty 4 years ago, and we're focusing on 3 critical areas. And one of those 3 is ending homelessness in Los Angeles. And in December, we launched a plan in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce called Home for Good that's really looking at chronic and veteran homelessness as a first step in our efforts. So we feel like this would be a natural partnership to bring the leadership and knowledge and expertise that we've developed through this plan to the city. And I would just look forward to being a champion for the council's interest in this really critical issue.
I knew you looked familiar. Okay. Ms. Perry.
Thanks, and thank you for your willingness to serve. I wanted to say a couple of things and then just highlight a few issues with you. And here in the city, we've done a lot of work on building the continuum of care for people who are homeless, from emergency shelters to transitional housing to permanent supportive housing. 85% of the housing for homeless being built in Los Angeles County is in the city of Los Angeles. That's 85% of the housing, which means only 15% is being built outside of the city of Los Angeles. Now, the city's Housing Trust Fund, the Redevelopment Agency, and the Housing Authority have functioned as an anchor for homeless housing development. So in order for us to build this strategy to successfully house people who are chronically homeless, we've built supportive housing with on-site services for low-income individuals. We can't house people with disabilities, including chronic homelessness, mental illness, and substance abuse, without housing subsidies. And I emphasize this because there's a reason I'm saying this to you. Section 8 and Shelter Plus Care. Now, the city of Los Angeles actually contributed 400 family housing vouchers for Los Angeles County's initiative. I want to say this again. The city of Los Angeles contributed 400 housing vouchers, family housing vouchers, for LA County's initiative to house homeless families under their homeless prevention initiative that was initiated 3 years ago. So here we have 15% of the housing being built outside the city. We're giving the county 400 family housing vouchers. The city of LA and our housing authority contributes 10% of our rental subsidies for housing the homeless. Now, I want to tell you this, and let me ask you first. If you know, then I'll share it with you.
Okay.
Do you know the percentage of rental subsidies LA County Housing Authority allocates to house the homeless?
I do not know.
Well, I want you to know this.
Okay.
So as you enter
May I
in-
grab a pen?
It's okay. I can tell you
all
later.
right, okay.
The percentage of rental subsidies that the County of Los Angeles Housing Authority allocates to house the homeless is less than 3%. So I say all that to say we build 85% of the housing. We're giving them family housing vouchers for their county initiative, and then they provide us with less than 3% in rental subsidy. Now, are you aware of what LA County pays for general relief?
I don't have that.
Okay. I'll share that with you,
Okay,
and then we can go over this again later.
Okay, great, that'd be great.
It's $221 a month. That amount has not changed over the last 20 years. So, LA County is aware that they've paid for a study that concluded that this general relief number, all by itself, is one of the biggest factors in causing homelessness in LA County. Now, this study was done by the University of Pennsylvania, and now you and we are all faced with the possibility of reductions
Right.
in general relief, or in the alternative, a conversion to a housing program subsidy. Either way, damned if
Right.
you do and damned if you do.
Right.
Now, so here's the dilemma we're in right now. Unless LA County is willing to establish a true mechanism for housing the homeless, nothing's going to change, and that's what you're going to face as a commissioner. And in fact, it could get worse. So I believe your biggest challenge as a commissioner is to push the boundaries of this discussion, to try to get the county to go on the record with commitments that are commensurate with the, I would say, the level of responsibility that they need to carry. Because in LA, City of LA, we're carrying the bulk of the responsibility. They do need to step up. LA County needs to step up and provide a much higher percentage of rental subsidies for people who are homeless. They need to have a vigorous pathway to help people get Social Security benefits for those homeless people who are entitled to it, and to get clients off of general relief. And they really need to establish a housing trust fund, not a revolving loan fund, because they need to develop their share of housing for people who are homeless. Now, when our trust fund was developed, I did ask LA County to add their service dollars to the trust fund so that housing developers would have a one-stop shop for supportive, affordable housing development. The county said no. Okay? So it's been a really big climb for us to make progress. I think it's an excellent model. I hope you'll pursue it. It's called the One-Stop Shop for Supportive, Affordable Housing Development. It would show the city and the county working together to really and truly housing the homeless. Now, quick question about the Hearth Act, and let me tell you what the Hearth Act is, just so you know. That's the Homeless Emergency and Rapid Transition to Housing Act. It was enacted in 2009 and amends the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Program. And what it does is it empowers jurisdictions to find solutions to get people off the streets and into permanent housing as quickly as possible. It emphasizes prevention, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing. So what do you feel would be your role as a commissioner on LAHSA in implementing the Hearth Act? And do you think you could be a leader and in assisting in this role, and how you see this benefiting Los Angeles?
Well, let me say two things to the first facts that you listed. Since United Way is a county-wide organization, and because we have the Home for Good plan, my hope would be that I, as a commissioner, could be a bridge between the city and representing some of those very important priorities that you mentioned with the county. And we have been actively meeting with the county supervisors. We were pleased that we got a 5-0 vote for them to implement the recommendations from the CAO's office on the Home for Good plan. So I think there's an opportunity there that hopefully I can champion. On my understanding of the Hearth Act, but hopefully you'll also enlighten me, is that we're really looking at how LAHSA can shift to performance-based contracts. And we have, at the United Way, shifted our funding in that direction, so I'm hopeful that my experience will be helpful as a commissioner. The other opportunity, as I understand it, is we are not utilizing the HMIS system in terms of really being able to understand where folks are accessing the system, but also making sure that integrated resources are being put into that system, including permanent housing. And I think the last is that I was mentioned on the docket earlier that the great work the council's done on the homeless prevention and rapid rehousing program, and how that's going, the infrastructure that's going to be built with the emergency solutions grant. So those are my three understandings of how the Hearth Act and how I could champion that as a commissioner.
Okay, so, and you indicated that you seem to be aware that HUD rewards jurisdictions based on outcome and performance, and continued levels of funding from HUD will be based on a jurisdiction's ability to get people housed, and that's important, but obviously support services on site will keep people housed.
Correct.
So I hope you're able to make some progress and really helping us to push on our partners at the county. I think it would be a good idea for you to work with the Housing Authority of the County of Los Angeles and bring them to the commission and all county departments that are involved with this issue, and see if we can make some progress because it's been very difficult.
Great. Well, I do see with our Home for Good plan, I understand my role is to be really an agent of change and to drive some leadership on this commission, so I hope to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Any other further questions? Okay, then, without objection, we will forward your recommendation to the full city council, and my notes say it's today.
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank
we'll
you, Councilman.
see you a little later.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, if you could read item 10.
Item number 10, LEHD and CAO report relative to a report back on Neighborhood Stabilization Program 3 grant award, including program design and staffing needs, authority to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Building and Safety for an NSP pilot program, and reallocation of funds for the Sherman Village project.
Okay, if there are no questions or concerns, then without objection, we'll adopt the CAO report on this item. Okay, any more? So you got the hint. Huh? Anyway, any more, any more, is there any further business on today's agenda, Brian?
No, sir.
Then this committee's adjourned.